Welcome to the Bitcoin Brew, where we give you a snapshot of all things that are going on in the Bitcoin space. My name's Christine Cranley, Director of Business Development at the Texas Blockchain Council, and I am here with my co-host, Amy Andres, sporting the Texas Blockchain new merch we have available.
That's right. Head over to the website. We have a store. You can get anything branded with the TBC logo, and we have our Come and Mine It sweatshirt and T-shirts on sale.
I love those with the little ASIC computer in the front of the cannon. Very Texan. Texas is Bitcoin country. Well, this week we are celebrating the 14th birthday of the Bitcoin symbol. The Bitcoin hash rate has once again hit another all-time high. We have surpassed block 777,777, and price action is hovering between 23 and 24,000. Today we're discussing the DapperLabs case on emojis and NFTs, Texas regulators opposing the Binance Voyager merger, some interesting stats about crypto adoption, and then at the end, a very interesting piece about what's going on in Nigeria with the monetary situation there and the central bank digital currency versus Bitcoin adoption. So I hope you stay tuned. Amy, start us off.
All right, Miss Christine, the rocket ship, the money bag, the line graph emojis, we see them everywhere. Right now, if you use those in financial discussions, tweets, or videos, a New York district court judge has deemed them objectively meaning a financial return on investment. Basically meaning they're alluding that you're guaranteed a profit on...
Guaranteed a profit for a rocket emoji.
Yes. I heard about this from Lisa Berganca. She is a former SEC branch chief, and she's warning us of the legal ramifications of using these. So let's back up a little bit. Why was a judge even looking at emojis in the first place?
Yeah.
He was reading the tweets of the non-fungible token company called DapperLabs. Remember CryptoKitties?
Yes.
Okay, that's this group here. They're being sued right now over whether or not its NBA Top Shot NFTs, they're called moments, should be registered as securities. The suit claims that NFTs gained or lost value depending on the success of the Dapper blockchain, making them more akin to securities like stocks and bonds versus collectibles. This is a quote from a DapperLabs representative. Quote, courts have repeatedly found that consumer goods, including art and collectibles like baseball cards, are not securities under federal law. We are confident the same holds true for moments, those are the NFTs, and other collectibles, digital or otherwise, and look forward to vigorously defending our position in court as the case continues. I read that off of Bazinga. So, looking ahead, the court hasn't yet ruled on the status of the NFTs, but it did refuse to dismiss the case in the ruling that cited the emojis. And if it does ultimately find that DapperLabs NFTs are securities, it could prompt regulators to take a look at other NFTs too. Regarding the emojis, I don't know, this feels like an overreach to me. Emojis are pretty subjective.
It's pretty stunning. I can't say I don't think I've ever purchased an NFT or any other project because of a rocket emoji. But, you know, it does seem a little bit of an overreach just because when I use the rocket emoji, when I have in the past, sometimes it's aspirational, right? It's like, hey, we're all in the club, and if Bitcoin goes up, we're all going to the moon together. I don't know. I mean, have you ever used the rocket emoji, like to the moon?
I have. You know, it's kind of, you started seeing it a lot, and then, you're right, it just sort of became ubiquitous to...
Yeah, I hope we're not incriminating ourselves. But seriously, I mean, it was never intended as investment advice, nor is any of this, by the way.
Hashtag not financial advice.
Not financial advice.
Yes.
Wow. We'll have to keep an eye on that one as well.
But yeah, I mean, think about all the things that we're watching with exchanges, staking, NFTs, now emojis too. I mean, this is a serious crackdown that's happening.
It really is. You'd think the SEC would have better things to do than crack down on emojis. But, I mean, I do get it, wanting to protect investors and people that are easily duped into buying something that is a Ponzi scheme or vaporware. But it is also seems a little bit insulting to the intelligence of the people observing the emojis to assume that that would be why you would buy into a project. I don't know, but we'll have to see how that one plays out. Well, in more regulation news, Texas regulators have opposed the Binance Voyager deal. So, as we know, crypto exchanges that have been wiped out are looking for ways to pay back their creditors. Binance US had plans to purchase Voyager's assets for $1 billion, and last week was the deadline for objections. Well, the Texas regulators have come in and objected on two different grounds. First, they're claiming that half those assets may actually belong to Almeida's creditors. So if you'll remember, back in the summer, in the fall, when Voyager and Binance became insolvent, FTX and their sister company Alameda came in and offered to bail them out. Specifically, Alameda gave $445 million to Voyager. And so the Texas regulators are saying that $1 billion worth of assets that you're selling Voyager, well, half of those may actually belong to the Alameda creditors. Additionally, the regulators cited concerns about Binance US's staking program, especially in light of what we spoke about last week with the crackdown, the fine that the SEC imposed on Kraken. And they seem to be ruling that a lot of these staking programs, they're considering them unregistered securities. So what the Texas regulators are pushing for is, rather than filing as a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which would allow Voyager to possibly come back one day, they're encouraging them to register as a Chapter 7 bankruptcy to liquidate all their assets and close up shop. So a judge is going to have a hearing about this next week to look at the merits of the case. What do you think, Amy? I mean, if Alameda stole funds from their customers to give it to Voyager, whose assets are those?
It doesn't seem like anybody would have a claim to those assets if that was the case. And I do know Binance US is trying to do the right thing. They've joined the Texas Blockchain Council. They're looking at all this regulation, and they're trying to do things on the up and up. So I'm definitely rooting for them that they will have success here.
Pull through, yeah, and find some way to make their creditors whole again. I mean, it's just such a tough situation. Did you end up getting caught into all that?
Thankfully, no. That was when all that discussion about not your keys, not your coins. So I was quick to take things off of the exchanges and secure them elsewhere.
For you. Good for you.
I hope you didn't lose any.
I lost about $6 on Celsius. I did like the program of getting interest, but the more that I looked into it, and especially when the regulations started coming in, I moved off. I just put a small portion of what I had there. But I knew it was always a risk, because if it's not your keys, it's not your coins. But when all the noise about it was happening, I pulled it off like a day or two before they locked it up. But it's been devastating. I know people that have lost hundreds and thousands, millions of dollars. So really hoping that they find a way to make their creditors whole in this.
I hope so too. I wanted to share with you some interesting statistics that came out of a survey conducted by Coinbase. Morning Consult was outsourced to do this survey. Some interesting things here. Almost 80% of Americans believe that the financial system in the world, the global financial system, is unfair and unjust.
80%.
80%.
Wow.
And of this subset, there were 2,200 people that were polled.
Okay.
67% of Americans believe the global financial system needs a complete overhaul. So 67% are ready to do something about it.
Wow.
That segues right into 20% of those surveyed own crypto. So 1 out of 5.
Okay. Because it's one thing to say, yes, it needs an overhaul, but it's a very different thing to say how to overhaul it. And obviously that's why we love the use case of Bitcoin, decentralized, all over the world. No government controls it. It's equitable, right? It doesn't matter what country you're from. You have the same purchasing power with your Bitcoin as everyone else. But only 20% of those have bought into Bitcoin yet.
And interestingly,
Education
Texas
work to be
Blockchain
done.
Council did a survey, similar survey,
Yeah.
outsourced it. 29% of Texans own cryptos. We're 9% above the national average.
Way to represent
Right?
Texas.
Few more interesting distinctions that came out of the data. 18% of Republicans own crypto from the survey, 22% of Democrats. So that really shows crypto is bipartisan.
Now, but what about libertarian? Because every Bitcoiner I meet, doesn't matter what side of the aisle on, they mostly tend to lean libertarian in a lot of fundamental values of just, self-sovereignty and taking possession of their coins and being responsible for their financial well-being.
They should add that section to this survey.
Interesting.
I bet it was just probably Republican, Democrat, or
You had to just kind of
undecided.
Very
Independent, maybe.
interesting.
Get this, 14% own Bitcoin, 9% hold Ethereum. So Bitcoin is still the most popular
Great.
cryptocurrency
Wow.
in possession. 36% of Gen Zs and 30% of millennials, showing younger Americans are more interested in crypto. 29% indicate interest in purchasing crypto in the next 12 months. And significantly, about 70% of older investors and over 50% of Gen Z and millennials expressed optimism that crypto and blockchain will redefine the future of finance.
Wow, that's great news. All the education efforts, the word is really getting out. And actually, just yesterday, I was down in Houston giving a talk to the Women's Institute there. And they're doing a 2-week series on what is Bitcoin mining in Texas. And it was a great conversation. Most of the people there, I would say a little older representation, and had a lot of questions. A lot of them had not really encountered Bitcoin much and had all the great normal questions that one would ask, and who made it, and how do you know that it's a cap supply, but it was a fantastic discussion, a lively discussion, and I was just so encouraged to see people taking the time out of their busy day to come out and learn more about the use case for Bitcoin.
Very cool. Coinbase is doing this in an effort to educate, so they're trying to kind of get a pulse, lay of the land, see where people stand, and then get out there and create some sort of education to do exactly what you were saying from the Institute.
Good news. Good news. Well, for my last piece, zooming out on the world stage, we're looking at Nigeria and the situation there with the central bank digital currency that they launched there, and the crisis going on with their switching over to a new bill, the Naira and Bitcoin, and the whole mess over there is actually really promoting Bitcoin adoption in the nation. So let's take a step back and give you the backstory. In 2021, the Central Bank of Nigeria, they had expressed a desire to move toward a more cashless society. And so they launched the e-Naira, their central bank digital currency. Now, Nigerians are historically known to be very supportive of Bitcoin. And so they thought, well, hey, they're both digital currencies. This will go over no problem. Not so much. So a year later, in October 2022, only 0.5% of Nigerians were using it. So that's 1 in 200, despite the fact that they are trying to incentivize by giving a 5% discount if you use it. The Nigerians weren't having it. Now, something to know about Nigeria, 55% of the country is unbanked. And 85% of the banknotes are outside the vaults of the commercial banks. So the Central Bank of Nigeria decided there's too much cash out there. And they also reiterated their goal of trying to make the society more cashless. So in October 2022, it announced it would be redesigning their larger bill notes. So their 200, 500, and 1,000 Naira notes, and phasing them out so that after 3 months, they would be worthless. And so the people in Nigeria were told to come to the banks with all their cash and give it to them, and then they would give them new cash. And the rollout has been a logistical nightmare because there's only 2 printing presses in the whole country where they can print this stuff, so there's nowhere near enough. Some of the reasons that the central bank said that they wanted to phase out the old naira was kind of the typical objections of counterfeiting, criminal activity, but also the inflation problem that they were having. And so, but the problem was when the Nigerians came to get the new cash, there wasn't enough. And so they were telling them, well, you can only take out a little bit if you get any. And Nigerians are waiting in line for hours, even days. And so they recently had an election where they expressed their disapproval with the situation going on there. And so they have pushed back the smallest denomination, the 200 naira note. They've said, okay, well, that one still can work until April. But a lot of the merchants aren't taking it. They don't want to be stuck with it. Hot potato, right? Well, this isn't going to be worth anything soon, and I don't want to have to wait in line to switch it out. And so the fungibility of the cash is broken, right? One is not equal to the other. They're fighting the 21% inflation. And so, but what's happening, the silver lining on this whole situation is that Bitcoiners in Nigeria are teaching the people about Bitcoin as a workaround in all this. And so they're teaching the merchants to receive it, and they're teaching people how to use it. And for this reason, Nigeria was ranked 11 in the world report, the 2022 Global Chainalysis Crypto Adoption List.
Wow.
So you hate to see what's going on over there, but it's interesting that it's fast-tracking people learning about this.
You know, Becca brought this to our attention a couple of months ago about a protocol called Match and Cura.
Yes, this is so interesting. Tell us about this.
So using the Nokia phones that most of the Nigerians use, they can transact using text. So it was basically a system, a protocol that allows them to spend their digital assets, Bitcoin specifically, at these different vendors. Definitely go back to the archives and look up that show for more information on that.
Wow, I love that. I love the creativity in the space. Like, okay, we can find a workaround, because that I had read that as well, that so many of the Nigerians, they're unbanked. And again, one of the reasons, I forgot to mention it earlier, but that the central bank said that they wanted to phase out the old cashes was because people were hoarding. But hoarding is just kind of a negative connotation for saving, right? And so this problem that people have spent their lives working, they've spent their energy, their time laboring, and the value of that labor is put into some monetary asset to preserve it. And so not only do you have the 21% inflation rate, which is basically like the piggy bank, losing 21% every year. But now you got this situation where everything you saved is going to be worthless unless you come in and switch it out. I brought a little show and tell, our little Federal Reserve note, dirty fiat, as it is affectionately called in the Bitcoin community, although this one looks pretty clean.
I mean, imagine a redesign of our money.
Can you imagine if they said, okay, 3 months, and then this is worthless?
That would be cause for a serious revolution, a serious...
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Well, and I do think in America, at least, we're very accustomed to digital money already. I mean, people push back when they first learn about Bitcoin. Well, what is it? It's, you can't touch it. But the thing is, most of our monetary system is not this, right? It's a ledger. It's just a centralized one. And so we use credit cards and wires and all that stuff. So I don't know if we'd have the same situation, although if you move over to Lebanon right now and what's going on there, it's also a crisis. It's not because they don't have enough printed cash, but basically on February 1st, the value of their currency was reduced 90%. So if you had $1 million worth of savings On February 1st, it was worth $100,000. And they too are having problems. The banks are shutting down and people just can't get any cash out. Because in a crisis situation like that, where the banks are shut down, cash becomes king, right? Like if you go to the store and your digital money's not working, this is the only way to purchase. So it's a really scary situation over there too. People are going in and holding up their banks violently to get their money out.
Yikes.
It's a bit of a nightmare, but yeah, I mean, it's scary to think about what would we do if our bank was shut down. And that's actually something in financial education I do try to help people think through. Just what would happen if there was, let's say, a cyber attack and you couldn't access your bank for 2 weeks? You know, would you have anything like cash or Bitcoin where you could purchase some food from someone? It's an interesting thing to think through.
Yes, it is. I've never put myself in that, standpoint and considered such a thing, but
yeah.
may need to start doing a little more preparation.
Kudos to the Bitcoin community in Nigeria. You know, I mean, it's horrible what's happening over there, but it's also really encouraging that more and more people are coming to learn the value add of Bitcoin and a decentralized global monetary system.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please consider liking and subscribing. We'd love to see you on March 29th down in Dallas. We'll be at the Pi Tap in partnership with the SMU Blockchain Club. Come on out, learn a little bit about blockchain, Bitcoin, and have a piece of pizza. Christine, you and Lee are speaking at Empower next week, March 8 and 9.
That's right.
Can you give us a little teaser? What are you talking about?
Well, actually, the conversation we just had about Nigeria is a little bit about the panel that I'm going to be on. So I think the title is Reducing Energy Poverty or Overcoming Energy Poverty. So basically the human rights aspect to Bitcoin, which, as you can tell, I'm very passionate about. So I think it's going to be a fantastic discussion. Really looking forward to it, and I hope people will join us there.
Yes, and you, Lee, and Steve will actually all be there. So make sure you say hi to our TBC team members, and we have a special code for you. Use the code TBC to secure $200 off your ticket price. Last thing, don't forget, go check out our channel. We've got NAPE interviews dropping, more content. The Blockcast, Lee sat down with Joshua Smeltzer from Gray Reed.
That was a great interview. Did you listen to it yet?
Not yet.
On taxes.
Oh,
and
that's very timely.
He used to work, I think, at the Department of Justice or Defense or something. Really good. You should check it out.
We'll see you next time. Hey, it's Amy. Click over here to subscribe. Click over here for more content, and we'll see you next time.